The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has projected that the world will record the worst economic fallout since the Great Depression of the 1930s. The crisis will be much worse than the 2007-2008 financial crisis. Specifically, the global economy will grow at a negative 3% in 2020, while sub-Saharan Africa is expected to grow at negative 1.6%. Further, projections show a drastic drop in per capita growth among countries. At the beginning of 2020, the IMF projected per capita growth for 160 countries. Now, it is projecting that 170 countries will record negative per capita growth on account of the impact of COVID-19. These projections are based on the assumption that the COVID-19 pandemic would have been cleared by the second half of 2020. If, on the contrary, it persists beyond that, the contraction of the global economy, including Zambia, could be worse than indicated. In the case of Zambia, the IMF projects that the economy will grow by a negative 2.6% in 2020 from the earlier projection of 3.6%. The economic adjustments due to COVID-19 will result in a severe drop in revenue. It is estimated that the budgeted revenue will fall short of target by at least 14.8 billion kwacha, or 19.7% of the approved 2020 budget. The scaling down of economic activity will translate into a reduction in all tax and non-tax revenues, among them payee, VAT, customs duty, excise duty, fuel levy, export duty, road user charges, fees, and fines. To mitigate this, government has announced the waiver of tax penalties and interest to assist companies and businesses manage their cash flow during this period when they are faced with reduced revenues. The Zambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, ZACCI, being the national body representing the interests of the private business sector in Zambia, focusing on the promotion and development of trade, commerce, and industry, appreciates the relief given by government. ZACCI President Chabuka Kawesha says the ease of pressure on private businesses is welcome.
As private sector, we appreciate all the initiatives that are pointing in the right direction, either to extending some form of relief, whether that relief is short-term or long-term, because we don't know for how long this pandemic will be with us. And so it's equally important from government side to plan strategically and certify we are able to unfold these for 3 months or for 6 months. We would like, of course, to see more, but again, we noticed that the minister was building on what the president had earlier directed. And then the minister announced, and then there's been some form of continuous engagement between the private sector and the policymaker, which is quite positive. So the initiative of the incentives and any other form of measures.
There has also been an issue of panic buying of commodities among residents, especially cooking oil. But Kawesha says this activity is not advisable as Zambia will not experience any shortage of commodities.
We need to be mindful that commerce and trade is still rolling through our borders. So panic buying is not a good option. You just end up storing foods and all that may go bad and compromise on one's health, your children, your family and all that. So it's really not a good idea. And I think that relates to the power of the social media. It's important that government and industry at large should communicate more.
Government has further announced the suspension of customs duty and VAT on additional medical supplies used in the COVID-19 fight. Chilongo, Virginia, For Movie TV News in Lusaka.